welcome to the Healing Train. I am your coach or conductor, B.Von Squires, and today we're sponsored by Spirit Source Connection, where we believe that we're multidimensional beings and that we must apply healing to all components of who we are so that our mind, body, and soul are all aligned in the same direction. That way we can achieve that homeostasis and that balance that we need. But today we're here because it is the healing train where ordinary people come to tell us all about their extraordinary trauma journeys. Now, as you know by now, everybody's journey is different. There are going to be ups and downs and twists and turns along the way. But what we do know is that healing is possible. And today we have a passenger who's going to bring authenticity. She's going to bring her vulnerability. She's going to be so honest in explaining to us how she was able to identify her trauma. And with no further ado, I'm going to ask Miss Kristin Sherrill to please come on and say hello to the community. Kristin, can you please come on and say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristin, and I'm so happy to be here today.
Thank you so much. And we are so happy to have you here today. Okay, guys, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about how this works. If you don't know, I wrote a book, and it's called The Energy Harvest. It is a spiritual model for the enhancement of your life. It's a trauma healing process that has 4 components. The identify phase, where we identify trauma, which isn't always that easy to do. And then we have the set phase, where we adopt the mindset that allows us to go on with our healing from the trauma. Generally, that starts with forgiveness of ourselves and the person or persons who have abused us in the past or traumatized us in the past. And then we move on to the achievement phase, where Kristin's going to tell us all about the wonderful things that she's been able to achieve now that she's got some healing. And then we'll finally wrap it all up with the sustain phase, where she tells us how she's able to sustain all of that wonderful joy and momentum that she's been able to achieve over these years or throughout this healing process. So with no further ado, we're going to just jump right on in. Kristin, oh my God, hello.
Hi. Hi.
I am so happy to know you. I am so happy to know your story, and I can't wait for this community to hear what you've been through, how low you went, so that they can actually watch how high you were able to achieve all those wonderful things after going through so much. And so we're going to begin with the identify phase, and we're going to ask you to identify for us the trauma that you'll be talking about today. Can you do that for us?
I can. Would you like for me to go ahead and start? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So growing up, my parents, they had me at a real young age, and I have 2 younger siblings, a brother and a sister. I was the oldest, and my childhood was like up and down a lot. My parents, they were in addiction. My mom and dad got pretty bad off when we were pretty young. It started, I guess I was about 5 or 6 years old. So we stayed with my grandmother a lot. And I particularly, I stayed with her all the time. And I would sleep up at her house. We had many aunts and uncles that would come up there, and it was one night, I was 6 years old. My uncle on my dad's side had come in, and I was molested, from ages 6 to 10, 11, something like that. And
sorry,
so yeah, so I was so afraid to say anything. He would tell me if I told, my dad would harm him and go to prison. And so I thought, by keeping my mouth shut, I thought I was protecting my dad also.
Oh, wow.
So eventually, after they had went through everything, we didn't have a place to live. They kind of hit their rock bottom. We moved to Cumberland County, where my other grandmother on my mom's side lived. And So we go down there. My mom and dad got sober. My dad got his own construction business. Things were going great. I was involved in sports. I never thought about ever again what had happened to me, and it's like I just blocked it out, didn't think about it. It's like it never happened. And so everything was going good. I was a sports player, volleyball, basketball, softball, cheerleading. I was just involved in a lot, straight A's. And then I was about 16, maybe 17. My parents bought me a brand new car. And I was on the right track. I felt like I knew it all. I was responsible. And one day my mother and I had gotten to this argument, and she said something like questioning me being responsible and me being, not grown enough to do something. And it upset me so bad. I got out of the car and I slammed the door, and it was, honest to God, like opening a Pandora's box. All these terrible memories from my childhood come flooding out, and I was just enraged with so much anger and hurt. Like, why wasn't someone protecting me? Like, why was the drugs more important than me? And at that point, everything kind of took a turn. I started skipping school, which I told my parents what had happened. My mom acted like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a big deal. My dad was very angry. He was enraged. And I don't know. My mom just made me feel almost like I was lying about what had happened. And that made me even more angry. So I started skipping school, hanging out with the wrong crowd, running around the wrong grown men at 16, 17. I tried methamphetamine for the first time, cocaine, you name it. I did it, drinking. And the meth was what really got me in a chokehold. And so I ended up getting kicked out of school for like fighting, being rebellious, so there goes my sports down the drain. I ended up running with an older man, a married man at the time. I was just a disaster. I didn't want to live at all. I didn't care. And then I found out I was pregnant at 18. So at that time, I had something to live for. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got this little baby now, and I've got to be so good for her. And, it's something that's mine, that will love me. And, I quit using. Everything was going great. However, her dad and I were very toxic for each other. It was a very abusive relationship, verbally, physically. And we still lived with my parents. And I ended up getting pregnant again, and so here I am, 19, maybe 20. I've got a toddler, I'm pregnant, and I'm a stay-at-home mom taking care of my grandmother with dementia. And it was just a lot, my whole life got taken away. And so I find out early in my pregnancy, my appendix ruptured. So I go to the ER. I have surgery. They didn't think my son was going to make it, because it was so early. And my original doctor ended up having to take a leave. So I got a new OB doctor. Okay. He started prescribing me pain pills during my pregnancy.
Ooh.
Which had never been, it had never been a problem for me, pain pills. I'd never really dove into that side of it. But although I knew it was bad, I thought it was okay because my doctor's saying, hey, it's fine, And I knew that when I took one, I wasn't sad. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't, mad because I'm stuck in a house. I felt good and I liked it. So my pregnancy, I'm just taking them, and then I have my son prematurely, of course, because of everything that I had been doing. And he continued prescribing me pain pills, just continued doing it. And this was around the time the whole opioid pandemic really just took off. So my parents start going to a pain clinic. I'm going to pain clinics, and I'm just a baby myself, acting like I have back pain, and things just started spiraling at this point. We're all living under the same roof, and when everybody was out, tensions were high. My mom and I have always been high conflict with each other. We never really quite seen eye to eye, me and my mom. I don't understand it, but to each their own. So once it got so bad to the point we all kind of went our separate ways. Me and my family was couch surfing. My mom and dad was doing their thing, and I couldn't pay for my pills anymore. So it kind of started, that was whenever it took another turn for the worse. And my husband and I had started stealing. We had pushing carts out of, Walmart, robbing people, and all these terrible things started going in and out of jail. That pattern started. And then one day we, decided to use meth again to come off the pills. And then I've got 2 addictions now, trying to keep up with one another. And like I said, meth really had me in a chokehold. And when I picked that up again, I was a monster. It was like, I just didn't care, because if I went to jail, my dad made me comfortable and took care of my kids, so I had nothing to worry about until I found out my dad had lung cancer and COPD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He started to just, his health was just decreasing so fast. And, I was losing my support. I was losing my best friend, my right-hand man, and I didn't want to face reality. So I just went even harder. My husband's in and out. I sometimes see him, sometimes don't, cheating, just you name it, it happened, And one Christmas, it was Christmas of 2015. I had took off with this guy I met at Kmart, never knew him, didn't know who he was, ran into him, and he and his girlfriend offered me drugs out of nowhere. And I was like, yeah, and I take off with him, and next thing I know, it's Christmas and my mom's calling, asking me if I'm okay, if I'm alive, because I'd never missed anything that pertained to my children. And so I go home. I robbed this guy. I never seen it. Yes, I robbed this guy. I never seen any value in men. Being molested, instead of making me real sexual, I didn't really, it wasn't, I really didn't care about it. But what I did use it as a tool to lure men in, I knew that's what they wanted from me, and I used that. I was angry, and I didn't really know why, but I was angry at men. And so I end up robbing this guy, and I go home and I get a pain pill, and I get a Xanax and I go into the bathroom and I poured everything in together. I had uppers and downers, and I don't know why I did that. It was a lot of stuff, and I I don't know, maybe I was just tired. And I ended up doing every bit of it. And in that very second I knew it was it. I knew that was that one shot, And next thing I know, I wake up and I'm on like a gurney. There's ambulance. My kids are screaming over the top of me. I'm bleeding out my nose. And my dad was there, like my whole family just in shock. So I ended up going to the hospital and then to jail. And little did I know, I was being charged with a felony possession of methamphetamine. Ooh. They had found the rest of it, and I got charged with it.
Okay.
So that was the big one for me, because my charges in the past were always, misdemeanors, 9 months of probation, whatever, never a felony.
Okay.
So when that happened, I was like, whoa, this is big time. And I went to court. I got the option to go to a 14 month Christian-based teen challenge rehab center for women.
Okay.
And then come out on paper, or I could go ahead and start my prison sentence. At this time, I had found out my dad was on life support for the first time due to his COPD and lung cancer. So he was just getting very, very sick. All I was thinking about was, I need to get out the fastest way, so I'll sign it. I'll do that, And then it was like, your kids, where's your kids going to go, Kristin, And in a panic, I was talking to my husband on the phone. I was in jail, and he and I knew we were going to be divorced. We knew we didn't want it anymore. And so he promised me that if I signed a paper to allow him to take our kids over state lines, that he would make sure I had phone calls and visits. I just wanted to hear my babies.
Sure.
And at this time, they were 4 and 6 years old. So he says he'll do all this, and he has his attorney come up to the jail. I signed this paper, and that was the last I seen from him. And years and years and years. Yes. Little did I know, but I ended up going to this rehab. I lasted 6 months in it. It wasn't for me. However, God works in mysterious ways, and everything he does is for a reason. During that 6 months, I completely dug into the Bible. I learned my Bible front to back, and I never, ever thought in a million years I would use what I learned either. But anyways, I ended up leaving because my dad, he was again on life support, and this was like, he was on hospice at the time, and I knew it could be any day he would pass. So I took off. I spent a couple of days with my daddy, and then my mom, she's strung out at this point. I'd never seen her as bad as she was. My brother, my sister, my whole family just wiped out from addiction.
Wow.
So that was hard for me to, I knew they were dabbling in pills, but to see it as that bad, I was like
traumatized.
Yes, because like these people are the ones that had my back with my kids, like who's going to be the adult, And so I ended up getting picked up by the law. My sentence went into effect, my 8-year sentence they gave me. So it goes into effect. And in June, I had court. And it was like when I went to court in shackles, and I remember looking in the back of the courtroom, and I seen just this dark, scary person. I don't know, whoever it was, it shook me to the core. Shook me to the, like, it scared me. And I don't know why or what it was. The lady next to me seen this person and asked me if I knew who it was. I did not. And I got so upset. I told the correctional officer, I want to go back to my cell now, And I go back to my cell. I asked for a Bible. I was so angry at God at this time. Like, there ain't no way I'd pick up another Bible. But I was so shaken by what I had seen. I was ready to pick up my Bible. I knew it was a spiritual battle I was in,
Wow.
I knew it to my core. So I go in my cell. It was cell 309. I go in and I just break. I break, and I'm just screaming, God, show me who you are. The devil has showed me who he is. I know what evil is. I know what darkness is. Show me your love.
Yes.
And it was like an out of body experience for me. I don't even know how to explain it. People think I'm crazy, but he showed me. He touched my heart in a way that it had never been touched before. He's seen me, and he eased every one of my worries in a split second. In a split second. And I wake up. It was like I passed out or something. I wake up, I'm on the floor. I'm soaking wet with sweat. I didn't know what just happened to me, but I knew I was different.
Wow.
So from that day on, I started thinking a little differently. It was a slow process, and I still messed up, but things were just different, and then Bible verses I learned from Teen Challenge started coming into play. I started hearing things, don't worry, worrying is not of me, and he loves me. He's not going to leave me. I was hearing all these things in my head. And then in July the 14th, I got a call. My dad passed away. Now, he was my rock, and he was always, always, always there for me. My best friend. May not have raised me completely right. He did the best he could, but his love was genuine. So I find out my dad's gone, and before I could even process it, the only thing I could think of was my kids. I knew when they told me he was gone, I knew I had to fill his shoes. I have to be mom now. I have to be the one my kids run to for safety. I have to be responsible. I have to do this. And I would have these terrible thoughts like, you ain't getting out for 8 more years. You ain't getting out for 8 more years. It's over. It's over. Your life is over. And it's like it was good and bad going against each other. And I remember just standing my ground and saying, no, I'm going to start being a mom right now today. The day my dad died was the day I started becoming the mother for my 2 children. And I ended up going to prison. And I got into my fair share of trouble there. I was still real angry. I fought a lot. I would get wrote up. I had no idea that write-ups affect your parole getting out. I had no clue. So I ended up going, like I said, I got tons of write-ups, and I go up for parole 4 times. 4 times I got transferred to every prison in the state of Tennessee.
Oh my.
I Yes, because every time you fight or get in so much trouble, they transfer you. And I go to every prison. Um, when I got sent to Henning, I found out my kids got put in foster care. So
Oh
this
my.
whole time, I'm not able to talk to my kids. Maybe like 4 times I got to speak with my kids.
Mm.
Yeah, they were bouncing around different girlfriends' houses with their dad, they got put in foster care. And every time I would hear something, I would lash out at
Mm.
somebody, and just in anger. And I during all that, I would try to pray. I would get put in segregation, and I would just pray, God, give me the strength, God help me. So I ended up going up for parole again for the 4th time, and I had the option to go. I could go anywhere. I could have went back home. I could have, you know, went anywhere I wanted, but I knew that wasn't the right thing for me to do as Maggie and Mason's mama.
Okay. Okay.
And I told myself, we're going to start. If you can find drugs with no phone, no electricity, and no car, and find drugs, you can get a home, you can get a job, you can get a car, and you will get your kids back.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Can I slow you
Yes.
down just for a second?
Yeah.
I want to bring our community in, okay? Because I want them to understand. Okay, guys, we are talking to Miss Kristin Sherrill. She has identified her trauma. Number one, she was molested at the age of 6. Now, I know there are some people out there that can identify with that. She didn't tell because her perpetrator told her if she told, she'd get her father in trouble and he might go to prison. So she didn't tell because she wanted to protect her father. Next thing we know is that she got on drugs because her family was on drugs and it took her down. She started doing a lot of different things and behaving in ways that will cause her to eventually go to prison. But before that, she told us that she actually OD'd right there on the floor on Christmas Eve in front of her whole entire family. Wow. Wow. And if that wasn't enough, didn't stop her from using at that point, but she was already traumatized. She already had so much anger going on. She told her mom and her dad about what had happened, and her mom didn't want to believe her. Can you imagine what she felt? Can you imagine how heartbreaking that was for Kristin? And then that anger was so bottled up inside her, she didn't know what to do. So she started acting out, just going wild. And the next thing you know, she's carted off to prison on an 8-year sentence for a felony possession of methamphetamine. Woo-wee! Can anybody out there identify with her story? I know you can. I know you can identify. I can identify with her story. I can certainly identify with her story. But the beautiful thing about it is God was with her the entire time. See, she ended up telling us also that when she went to the women's rehab, or rehab, if you want to call it that, teen challenge rehab, she went there, but God sent her there so she could find him. Even though he found her, she hadn't found him yet. So he sent her there so she could find him. He began to speak to her spirit, had begun to speak to her through the Bible. She said that she learned that Bible from frontwards to backwards. So she's identified the trauma. She's identified now the mindset that she's had to adapt. Her dad's gone. Who's going to take care of the kids? the rubber has met the road, and it's time for Kristin to stand up and be a mom to Maggie and Mason. And that's where we are now. We're at the place now where she's got a new mindset, knowing that it's all on her. If she doesn't make it, it's not going to happen. So she's got this mindset. I got to be a mom to my kids. I didn't let nothing stop me from getting my drugs. I was able to find everything I wanted with no resources. And so there's nothing that she can't do. So she's got some courage now to go forward and be a mom to her babies. Okay, so now we're going to jump back in. We're going to jump back into Kristin's remarkable, extraordinary story so she can finish telling us about the things that she was able to achieve as a result of all of this new mindset change. She said God started talking to her and telling her, I'm not going to leave you or forsake you. You are my child and I love you. I got a plan to prosper you and give you hope. And God started just ministering to her spirit, and she just grew up right before her very eyes. Now she's still in prison at this time. So let's check back in on Kristin and see what she was able to achieve after she was able to find God and get that new mindset. So, Kristin, can you tell us more about what you were able to achieve now? This is so exciting.
I can. So at this point, I knew that I wanted to go somewhere different. I was from East Tennessee, so I ended up picking a place called T Palm in Nashville. Okay, I'd never lived in the city. I am from the sticks. All I ever knew were the sticks and small towns. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is completely out of my comfort, but I'm going to do it because I have to. And I applied to T Palm, and they ended up writing me back. You have to stay right up free in order to get into that place, which I was a year right up free at this time. And I guess my fighting record, my points were maxed out. I had been in over 60 something documented fights, and they did not want someone like me at their halfway house. Okay. So they brought me back and they denied me. So I got upset for a minute, and then I remember, no. We ain't fixing to do this because I'm right up free, and I'm gonna tell you why you're gonna let me go to that halfway house. So I wrote them back. I wrote like a 4-page letter, front and back, telling them why I am gonna go there, why I need to be there for Maggie and Mason. I told them all about Maggie and Mason and how much they needed me and how hard I've worked to stay right up free. Yeah. And Mr. David there, he got so tickled, and Miss Alice got so tickled with my letter. They were like, okay, well, we'll give it a try. So they ended up letting me go to T Palm. And that was whenever I kind of started the journey of reintroducing myself back into my kids' life, which was real hard, because not only did, me and my ex-husband have really bad blood, it was toxic, and him and his family were expecting the old me. They could predict the old me. I was going to get out, rage, and go down there and show out and fight, and then they're going to send me back. That's what they thought was going to happen. So it was real hard, though. I had to play a game of chess with him, because if I did something he didn't like, or tell him I didn't want to get back with him, or something like that, it would irk him and he would not let me see the kids. Right. And so that was whenever I kind of started, I got a job within 48 hours of getting out. I started saving money. I started getting myself together. I knew I needed a car, a place. I needed all these things before I could take him to court. So I started contacting my kids at school. They let me go down there for visits to see my kids at the school. So yeah, because there was no documentation stating that I couldn't go around my children. Mm-hmm. So I started kind of doing that. I bought my kids cell phones and phone minutes so we could stay in contact. And that was real hard. They were still angry, but we pushed through. I let them know I was not going anywhere. I'm persistent.
Yes.
I guess it took, I met the love of my life now. And he and his family kind of took me in and loved on me, and they treated me as if I've been their family all along, and kind of filled a void in my heart. Oh, yeah. And they just had my back to the fullest. I ended up getting another job at a different factory, and my fiance and I now, we saved up until we got us a place. We got us a car paid for, saved up money for an attorney. And this whole time I'm keeping documentation and evidence of how he would play chess with me with the kids, and things that were going on, recorded phone conversations. I kept everything. And my attorney at first told me I didn't have a fighting chance to get my kids back. Said I'd be lucky to get maybe 40 days a year to see my kids. And I knew that wasn't true because God told me different. God told me different. And I knew it. So I kept fighting. Every time they told me I couldn't do it, I kept fighting. I kept pushing. And one day we were getting ready for our big court date, and I was so scared. I was so scared. My kids had been down here for the summer at the time. And it was right when school was getting ready to start, and I was terrified they were going to make my kids go back, And I'm sitting there getting ready to walk out the door to drive to East Tennessee for court, and my attorney calls me and tells me that they backed out. They don't want to go to court with me, and that my kids can start school here. And right now, today, my kids are finishing out their very first year here in Gallatin. And my daughter's got a 4.2 GPA, a job. She's got her license. She's got a car. My son, he's a football star. I got a home.
Wow. So what you're telling me is that you prepared all this time to go to court and fight for custody of your children with an attorney's office that said you probably wouldn't get it, only to find out that the opposing team says, no, we don't want no part of that.
Yup.
Oh, yep. That's so amazing. That is so amazing.
But God.
Yes. See, you had a whole team with you, a spiritual team as well as a legal team.
I did.
That is so amazing. Those are wonderful achievements. You know what I'm saying? You got yourself together, became a woman that you could be proud of. Then a man found you and found a good thing, right? And then had a whole family that embraced you as if you were their own.
Oh yeah, they
you in.
Yeah, my fiance's family, they saved me in so many ways.
Yes, oh, those are tears of joy.
Yes.
Look, you got me going too over here, honey.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for everything that God has done in your life. And as I listen to you tell your story, I can see and trace him along the way.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to trace him along my own path too. And even though there were some things that are different, the struggle was real. You know what I'm saying? The anger was real. And, just acting out, not knowing what to do I understand all of that. and then you hit your bottom, and then God brought you back, and He's still rising you up. Your children are healthy, they're thriving. You got a beautiful life. Look at that smile on your face. Oh my God. You are happy, and you deserve to be happy. You're worthy of this, and you worked hard for this.
I did.
Yes, you did. I'm just so happy to hear all of the things that you were able to achieve. Nobody gave you this new beautiful life. You worked really, really hard for it. And I'm so
Yes.
happy that this is the life that you have, the life that you've been dreaming of is the life that you have today. That is so amazing. You guys, this is a wonderful story, of trauma to triumph. A wonderful, wonderful story of struggle to success. And that's what the healing train is all about, because we're here to let you know what is possible for your life too. And so we're going to jump back in, and we're going to wrap up with the final section, which is the sustain phase. And we're going to ask Kristin to help us understand how she manages to maintain all of this wonderful joy and momentum, and even though we know life has ups and downs and twists and turns, even still, right? Even still, but they're a lot different than the other twists and turns. So please let us know now, Kristin, how do you maintain, how do you sustain all of this wonderful momentum?
Number one thing, God, that's my number one. But sometimes just it's like several times throughout the day, I'll look at my kids' face,
Yeah.
and when I hear mama, when they get on my nerves, teenagers are terrible. And that's that's what I had. That's what I walked into. I left and they were babies, and I come out and they're teens, and it's like, but it's the most beautiful disaster ever. And I look at them, and whenever I hear mama, or when I look at my fiance or his kids or his grandkids that absolutely adore me, it's just little reminders that tell me, this is what I've fought for, this is what I've worked for, and this is mine. And I never want to lose it. And just looking at them and being around them gives me drive. Like, I want to keep going. I want to keep reaching. I want to keep, I want to do everything that I can. And also sharing testimony. That's sharing testimony, being able to connect with people that that's in the slumps the way I used to be, being able to see it, to identify it. But there's a scripture I'd like to share with you that really, really helps. It's always helped me. And I often thought about it and still do. Anytime I feel tired or triggered, angry, I feel like I just can't do it anymore. I think Psalm 119:71. My suffering was good for me, for it taught me to pay attention to your decrees.
Ooh-wee.
And it makes me thankful for every single thing that happened to me. I wouldn't take none of it back.
Wow.
Because I wouldn't appreciate things the way I do today. My home may be a little apartment, but it's my apartment that I worked for.
Yes.
My car may not be brand new, but it's my car that I paid for. Yeah. Sober,
Wow.
I'm not a statistic. I'm more than that 2%, that only 2% make it out. No, not with God, not with God. It was impossible to get my kids back. I got them,
You about to make me shout up in here, girl.
Sorry. But yeah, that's how I sustain it. I think about, what truly makes me happy, and it's my family. that God gave me, you know?
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, this has been so amazing. I love your story. I love it. And thank you so much for having the courage to come here and tell it. Because, see, there is somebody out there that needed to hear that you made it through. There's somebody out here that needed to see that you didn't just get stuck in that prison. And that even though you came out, your mind wasn't stuck in that prison.
That's right. I was free in there. I was free.
Absolutely. And I'm loving what you said. You said you became a mom that day in that
Yeah.
jail cell, is when you made up in your mind, I am a mom and I will be a mom. You didn't
Yes.
wait till you got out. You didn't wait till you got to your kids. You started that long before you got there. And
Yes.
and so you were prepared to take that step once you got out to be their wonderful, beautiful mother, clean and sober mother.
Yes.
It's so exciting. I'm so excited for you, and I'm so excited for our community to be able to hear your story today, to be able to share this journey, this beautiful disaster, as you call it. Oh my goodness, guys, this is so amazing. This is why I love doing this healing train. And I'm so grateful for this platform because not only does it allow you to tell your story and get free, but it allows someone else to get hope from your story and get
Amen.
free as well.
Amen.
And thank you so much for being here. Guys, I'm telling you, wasn't this an amazing episode? I mean, they all are, but this one, girl, you had me crying.
Me too. Me too, honey.
Yes, yes. We laughed, we cried. We were drawn in by Kristin's wonderful presence. And I'm just so grateful that you guys were able to experience this with me. And so we're going to go ahead and have to wrap up. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's good, but we'll be back again next week with another passenger who's going to come on and tell you all about their extraordinary trauma journey as well. And so, Kristin, is there any last words you want to say to the people?
I would. I just want to say that no matter where you are in your journey or what's going on or what's happened to you, there's always help. There's always help. And when you don't see anyone, pray. I promise you, your prayers are heard. And I promise you, He will never leave nor forsake you. And I want y'all to know that I love y'all so much. And I have faith in you. I have
Oh,
faith in you.
that is so awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you so much, Kristin. You guys heard that from Kristin. She believes in you, and so do I. I love you and I believe in you. And if there's something that you're manifesting for and you're praying and asking God for, I want you to keep the faith. I want you to keep up that positive action, moving forward towards your goals, because that thing that you're manifesting for is on its way to you now. All God's promises are on their way to you. Everything that you could ever imagine can be yours if you only believe. And with that, I'm going to say thank you so much. I love you, and I will see you next week right here on the Healing Train. Bye bye.
Bye.